Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing a book that is a little bit outside my comfort zone, not something that I usually read. It was a book that was selected for the book club that I'm part of, so I wanted to talk about my thoughts and opinions, and I also wanted to hear your thoughts and opinions because, yeah, it's a book. It's a book. So the book that I chose to read, that I read for book club was The Curse of Oak Island by Randall Sullivan. This is the story of the world's longest treasure hunt, and this is the updated version. It says updated with new material from the author, and it also appears to be associated with the History Channel. So going into this book, I was not familiar with the show. It appears there is a show, or I actually looked it up and there is a show that is based on The Curse of Oak Island. So this is not a show that I had seen or watched. I also wasn't even familiar with Oak Island, even though during the course of me reading this book, which as I should know, I did read this on the ebook version, which is why I have my tablet here. Other people came up to me and said that they were familiar with the island, the Oak Island. So people were familiar with it. People I knew had known about it. I guess I just was living under a rock and wasn't familiar with it. I just read this book for book club and boy, do I have thoughts. So no show, no background, never heard of this island before, and that's because I'm not really big into conspiracy theories. Some people like to watch them, some people believe some of them. I'm sure that some conspiracy theories out there are true. I have a sibling who likes to watch them or watches them on YouTube just because they're interesting to watch, but I don't really watch a lot of them, and I also am not really familiar with a lot of conspiracy theories, and I also don't read a lot of books about conspiracy theories. And I feel like this book was a lot of conspiracy theories. So it was definitely something that I wasn't used to reading, and I wanted to see how I felt while reading it. Well, I had to read it for book club. Some people in my book club didn't finish this book, so you know who you are. Read the book next time. Overview. Oak Island. Apparently I've been living under a rock. I do not know what Oak Island is. But everyone else does, apparently. It's this island off the coast of Nova Scotia where they think treasure is buried because they found some stuff on the island. And throughout the years, from like 1790, I think was the first time they found stuff, to all the way through the 200s, or 2000s, 200s, people have been digging and trying to figure out where the treasure is, what the treasure is, what was buried there, who put the treasure there. Yeah, so they've been digging around for a couple centuries. Basically what happened is they found a pit and they've been digging on it and they've been trying to find treasure and figure out who put the treasure there. But that's kind of backward logic because they haven't actually found the treasure, but they've been trying to theorize who put the treasure there. There is some things that the book talks about that seem to indicate that there was some human activity at this island. I mean, they are digging up things. They will dig up coins. They've dug up a couple bodies. They've dug up just like parchments or wood or things that indicate that there was human activity on the island. And this whole book just talks about maybe who was there, the people who have been doing this digging, this excavating, and what they found and what they think it means. This book, Randall Sullivan, one thing that I have to know is he gives credence, or not credence, he gives airtime to all conspiracy theories, or just theories, I should say, all theories. Whether or not they're really off the rails or not. I mean, he gives equal airtime to things that feel very plausible to things that feel very implausible, things that do not seem to have occurred at all, or things that do not even track. Well, I think I actually kind of appreciate that because I feel like he is giving everyone credence, he's giving everyone a voice to talk, and gives the reader the opportunity to decide whether or not something is true or not. That being said, I'm not big into conspiracy theories, and so a lot of that stuff it was interesting to read, but it wasn't really my cup of tea, I should say. This book covers a lot of the history of Oak Island, and I feel like most of the history is, let's dig a hole. Oh no, it filled with water. Digging a hole abandoned. 20 years later, let's dig a hole. This time we have better ways to pump out the water. Oh no, the water's coming in, abandoned. 20 years later, oh no, let's dig a bigger hole with more dynamite maybe this time. Dynamite, that's gonna do it. Oh no, there's water coming in, let's abandon the operation. Oh, 20 years ago they tried it, but a bunch of water came in, let's get some bigger machinery and we'll pump the water out. Oh wait, we can't pump the water out, abandon the operation. It became comical after a while how every 20 years or so, someone would think, well, they all failed, but I think we can do it now because we have the correct machinery. And they continued to fail. There's also this very petty scene, like all the 1900s had these petty people who were like buying land to block someone else from accessing the land, and they were putting up a chain link fence and they were going to stop someone, so then someone had to barge all them. Anyone out there who thinks that women are like the super petty like gender, and we're just out, which women can be petty, but men can be just as petty. Anyone who wants to fight me on this can read this Curse of Oak Island book, and these men were petty to the top level. It was ridiculous how petty these people were being. At one point, the guy like lengthened his museum so he would block a road, and then the government had to come in and say, you can't, you need to move your museum off the road, basically. That was my understanding of that section. So there was just a lot of pettiness. But overall, I kind of read this history as very humorous. It was humorous to see the attempts and how no one seemed to learn from the past, and everyone just kept trying, and there never really seemed to be anything substantial or conclusive about what they were looking for, or whether or not there was even anything there to look for in the first place. My fellow book club member and sister made a very fair comment during our discussion of this book, and she said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, which definitely feels like a lot of the attempts on Oak Island are just doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. Now, to that comment, I could be proven wrong if someone actually does dig something up, in which case I will definitely go and admit my mistake. But I feel like people are just trying the same thing, especially when they were digging the holes and then it was getting filled with water and then they were having to abandon the operation. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting it not to happen because, I don't know, it's 20 years later just seems foolish in my opinion. But if that's what people want to devote their life to, then that's very interesting and they are allowed to do that, and I'm not going to tell them that they can't do that. Another thing that I find, and this is true of a lot of conspiracy theories, again, I'm not big in the conspiracy theory theme, is there's always like this big leap of logic where someone digs up something that inherently is kind of interesting. How did this older coin get here? Was it dropped by a sailor who was visiting the island? Was it laid here intentionally? Is this led to mislead? But the conspiracy theorists, or just the theorists in general, kind of take it to the next level where they see a coin and it's here, so it has to be associated with the Knights Templar, and like, whoa, we are off the rail. The leap of logic is always, it feels like off the charts and that's true of a lot of theories. Now, to be fair, one of these theories, it might be true. It's possible. They put all theories out there, including that there is no treasure, including that the treasure was already received. Like, there's one of these theories that has been put forward is likely true. So one of these is true, but a lot of these theories have big leaps of logic that I just find very, very difficult to believe or to trust or to understand how someone can look at the evidence presented and then reach this really crazy conclusion. Another thing I just want to point out, I feel like any place where there's been human habitation, if you dig a big enough hole in the ground, you will find something. I think of myself when I was a little kid, I convinced my brother to dig a big hole in the backyard of my house. We dug down very far for a couple of kids, a couple feet, and we found potato sacks. Because if you dig down far enough in an area that has had human habitation for the last couple hundred years, you're probably going to find something. And you can turn that something into anything you want. Whether it's just some old farmer buried some potato sacks, or whether the Freemasons buried some treasure from who knows where on an island in Nova Scotia. You can turn that into whatever you want with whatever leaps of logic and acrobatics you would like to perform. As you can tell, I don't really buy a lot of these theories. And I don't think it's necessarily the theory is bad, I just feel like that they don't have enough evidence to present their case. But the author, Randall Sullivan, gives all these people equal airtime to just voice their opinion, and he kind of letting the reader decide which ones they want to believe and which ones they don't want to believe. And as you can tell, I've kind of decided which ones I want to believe and which ones I don't want to believe, but also openly admitting that I could be proven wrong on any of these counts. I will say that I actually enjoyed reading this for the book club because I liked hearing everyone else in the book club's opinions on the book. I liked hearing what they thought of the book, what theories they held true. So I think if you're in a book club, this could be an interesting book to read. I think book club books aren't always necessarily the ones that everyone reads and is like, oh, I like it a lot, it was super funny. The end. I kind of like it when there's different opinions, or when there's something like this that there's a multiple different explanations for what's on the island or what's happened on the island or what hasn't happened on the island, and everyone can kind of chip in their opinions. So I do think it's kind of a good book for a book club because it was kind of interesting to hear everyone's opinions, even the people who hated the book and didn't read the book. But yeah, I just felt like there's a lot of leaps of logic from the conspiracy theories, but I don't think that's necessarily the author's fault. The author did not invent the conspiracy theories. The people came up with these theories, and the author is just presenting all of them for our reading pleasure. So take that as you will. Overall, Oak Island, I have no idea how to rate this book. It was quite the read. It was an interesting read. I read it for book club, and I don't regret reading it. And now I know about this place, which I actually somehow, from living under a rock, had never heard of before. If you have any thoughts on Oak Island, or if you have a favorite conspiracy theory about what's going on this island, I would love to hear it. Again, I'm not going to dismiss any conspiracy theories. I just think some have a little more leaps of logic than others, but I'm not going to trash anyone for believing what they want about this island. That is up to each individual person. I am just going to take a step back, now that I know about it, and see what happens in the future with this island. And I'm glad that I read this little piece of Canadian history. I think it's just an interesting piece of history, and I don't really know what to think. That's kind of the long and the short of it. So yeah, let me know what you think if you've read this book, if you've watched this show. I might go watch the show just to see what it has in it, just because I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'll watch at least a couple episodes. So yeah, that's how I'm going to approach this. Put all your comments below. I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.